Hey guys, this is James from Relaxation Effort. Today I got a new story for you guys, but this story is actually somewhat special to me because first, it is my first episode, and this story is something that actually happened to me myself. So sit down, close your eyes, and listen carefully. Let's go back a little bit. A quick cap of who I am. I am a second generation Korean, which means my parents are both Korean, but I was born in the United States. One summer of my college, I decided to come visit South Korea. Liked it so much that I decided to live here. Here's where the actual story begins. So when I first came to Korea, I decided to live with my uncle, who is my mom's older brother. I decided to live with him because I was new to Korea and didn't know much, and he could honestly be a good help for me to get adjusted. It wasn't just him, his wife, my two younger cousins, and my grandma all lived in the same house. Everything was going fine, and I got adjusted pretty well. I found a job teaching English at an academy, and of course, enjoying the Korean nightlife too. But here's where everything started to change. About 6 months in since moving to Korea, one night, one of my cousins walked into my room, and she said she had some news. She told me, now that I'm part of the family, that I should know something about my uncle and aunt. It was the fact that they were getting a divorce. It didn't really hit me because I just started to get to know them, and the only reason I'm telling you guys this part of the story is because it is a crucial part for the reason in the next part of the story. After the divorce, my aunt moved out of the house, and within weeks, my uncle got relocated for his job to a different district outside of Seoul. So as a family, we decided to move out of the house we were living at. But my grandma, my cousins, and I had to actually stay in Seoul. Because for me, I had a job. My youngest cousin was still in high school, and the older one was going to college in Seoul. My grandma decided to stay in Seoul because she had to take care of my cousins. So my uncle decided to move by himself, and the rest of us found a little place in Seoul. I was busy with my life, honestly, and I didn't really have a chance to look at the houses with the family, so they decided on where to live, and I was just following along. A couple weeks went by, and finally they found a place to live, and the day of the move came. It was a normal Wednesday. I went to work, my cousins went to school, and my mom's side of the family came to help us move because none of us actually could have been there. Honestly, I didn't even know where we were moving to. I didn't even know the address until that day because my aunt texted me to come to this address after work. So after a busy day of work, I went to the new address and saw the building we were supposed to live at. Here's some quick information about Korean housing. There are many types of houses in Korea, but the most common is something called a villa, where in one big building, there are about a couple houses that live separated by floors. Kind of like an American apartment complex. Anyway, back to the story. When I first saw the building we were supposed to live in, I didn't really know what to feel. The building was a little bit run down. It had an eerie vibe to the building as if it was abandoned. Usually, in this time of generation, most villas in Korea have a keypad lock in the main entrance of the building. But this building did not. Just everything about it I didn't really like, but I didn't really have a choice. So I walked up to our floor and stepped into our house. And by surprise, the interior of the house was pretty new and clean. Maybe they did a remodel right before we moved in. Nothing I actually expected after seeing the building itself. I walked into the house and was greeted by my grandma showing me to my room. As soon as I looked at my room, me and my grandma had a moment of silence. Not that I didn't really like my room, not that the room size was big, not that the room size was small. It was just a normal room. This room seemed like it was just not part of the house. The living room and the other rooms looked clean, but this room was more similar to the building age rather than the house itself. The one thing that I really didn't like about the room was the wallpaper. I think the previous owners used this room as a nursery or something like that. The wallpaper of this room had little animations of babies growing up. Like there were pictures of babies taking a bath, playing on the grass, eating food and such. So I decided to change the wallpaper on the weekend when I actually had some time. Another thing that I didn't like about this room was while I was cleaning the floor, I found a stain that seemed like it was blood. It wasn't like a scene from CSI or Dexter. It was more like as if someone had a bloody nose and sneezed on the wall. But still, just the fact that there was a bloodstain gave me the creeps. I got settled in and finished moving into my room and decided to go to bed. So the next part of the story, you actually have to know something about me. Since I was young, I had trouble with sleeping because I often had something called sleep paralysis. For those of you that don't know what sleep paralysis is, it is a medical condition where, while falling asleep or waking up, your body freezes and you can't move your body, but your mind is fully awake. But here in Korea, they have a different theory about this condition. They believe that sleep paralysis is when a demon or spirit is trying to possess your body. This is an important part of the story because that first night when I was about to fall asleep, I fell into sleep paralysis. For those of you that has never had it before, sleep paralysis is the worst feeling ever. But for me, I've had it so many times that now, whenever I get it, the first thought in my head is just to get out of it. So I move small parts of my body, like fingers and toes, to get out of it. But this night, something was different. I was doing the usual to get out of it, but nothing worked. I started to panic a little bit, and was able to open my eyes. And that is when I saw this young lady for the first time. This young lady was sitting on my stomach and looking down at me. This girl was not a spirit or demon. She looked a couple years younger than me, and she looked like a normal girl, as if I saw her outside, I would have thought of nothing different. She was looking down at me, and I was so scared I closed my eyes again, now freaking out to get out of this paralysis. Then I heard her voice. She was trying to open my eyelids with her cold fingers and kept on talking to me, saying, "Why aren't you looking at me? Look at me. Why? Am I not pretty enough?" Those are some of the stuff that she has said to me. I was so frightened. I finally got out of my paralysis and ran to the living room. I was hyperventilating and just couldn't think straight. My grandma heard me and woke up and came to me and asked what was wrong. I told her that there was a person in my room. I didn't tell her there was a ghost or there was something because I didn't really believe that she was a ghost. She and I both didn't think it was a ghost or anything. We both thought that it was a burglar or something. We both went to check it out, but looking everywhere, we couldn't find anyone or anything in my room. Then my grandma said it was probably just a bad nightmare. So she told me to just go back to bed. So I did. I went back to my room, I kept the lights on, and just laid in bed looking at the ceiling. I needed to go back to bed because of work the next day. But I knew that if I started to go to bed, then I would be woken up again by this girl. So I decided to stay up and just went to work the next morning. Now it was a Thursday. I came home after work. It was a regular night. Me, my cousins, and my grandma sat around the dinner table and had dinner. Me and my cousins watched a movie, and I was so tired that I didn't even get a chance to think about the girl the night before. So I went to my room, turned the lights off, and laid in bed. This was about 10 at night. As soon as I laid in bed, I fell into sleep paralysis again. In my head, the only thought about was the girl from last night. I decided to keep my eyes closed this time. I kept on trying to get out of this paralysis. I knew not to open my eyes because I knew the girl was in front of me again. But about a minute has passed and I couldn't move anything. So I opened my eyes to see if the girl was there. To my surprise, she was actually not there. I looked around the room to see but couldn't really find anything. I had a moment of relief, and now my full energy was to get out of this paralysis. Then at that moment, I heard a voice. It was the girl. As if she grabbed my sight, she led me to look at the top of the wardrobe in my room. She was hanging out on top of the wardrobe, just looking down at me, smiling, and asked if I was sad that I almost didn't get to see her today. Then she just started laughing. I was so scared, I panicked and finally got out of this paralysis and went to the living room. This time, my grandma was already out in the living room because this was only around 10 at night. My cousins were also out there in the living room, and everyone just looked at me with confusion. Then I told everyone that I think there is a ghost in that room. Of course, nobody believed me and thought that I was crazy. I told my grandma I'm not sleeping in that room again, and I'm going to sleep in the living room, so she let me. That Thursday night was the first night since moving to have a very good sleep. No paralysis, no girl, just me in my sleep. I woke up the next morning and my cousins were eating breakfast in the kitchen. The older one asked and was curious about the girl I saw. So I told her everything. If the room really did have a ghost, would she be able to see her too? She only asked because she said she has never had sleep paralysis, or even at that, never even had a nightmare. She was trying to prove that if a person like her were to be in there, that nothing would have happened, and that I need to be stronger and grow my energy like her. So she said she would sleep in my room that night. I thought it was a joke. After work, I came home and was having dinner. My cousin comes to me with her pillow and tells me she's going to bed soon. It was around 11 o'clock. So I let her sleep in my room. About an hour has passed since she went into that room. I was curious, so I knocked on the door and went in the room. A sign of relief, she wasn't sleeping yet. She was just on her phone. And she said nothing was wrong. She told me to just go to bed, so I laid down on the sofa and fell asleep. Around 1 o'clock at night, I was woken up by a girl's voice again. This time, this girl's voice was screaming and crying. I thought it was the girl again, and now she had followed me into the living room. But the weird thing was, my body was able to move, which means I wasn't having sleep paralysis. So I woke up to find my grandma and my older cousin out in the living room right by me. My cousin was crying and saying that there was a girl in the room. So I asked her, I said, "Did you see her?" And I was so frightened by the next statement my cousin made. She told me, she said, "She was looking for you." I woke up because I had a weird feeling in my body and I couldn't move at all. So I opened my eyes and there was this girl, very angry. She asked me where the boy was at that usually sleeps here. She told me to bring you, and when I agreed, I was able to get my body free. I was so scared and woke my other cousin up, and we went to a nearby hotel that night. The next morning, which was a Saturday, we went to our aunt's house, told her the situation, and stayed there until we were able to find a new place and move the next week. I don't exactly know what would have happened if I went back into that room again. I don't know why there was a girl in that room. I don't know what happened to her. I don't know if anybody moved there after us, because we didn't actually say anything about the ghost in that room. Everything about the room was just a mystery for us. This was the story of the 3-day move that actually has happened to me. If you enjoyed the story, please like and share so other people can enjoy. And subscribe to my channel for more horrific personal bedtime stories. Good night.